Creatures and enemies get described dead last. Dead last. Always, 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 always describe what the room looks like, what objects there might be in the room first. And then you mention if there are any creatures, monsters, that sort of thing in the room. And here's why. Do I have a description algorithm, meaning a particular order of describing a scene? Yes, I do. Ugh. This is a good question. I have a very specific thing that I do when I am describing a scene to my players. There's a very particular order, and this is how it goes. Creatures and enemies get described dead last. Dead last. Always, 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 always describe what the room looks like, what objects there might be in the room first. And then you mention if there are any creatures, monsters, that sort of thing in the room. And here's why. If you say the players open, they're like, they open the door, ooh, and you say, in this room there is a Hydra. Everything else you say after that will be ignored. Ignored, 100%. Because your players' brains are immediately like, Hydra, how are we gonna fight it? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna run? Are we gonna fight? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna rush in? Am I gonna cast a spell? And even if they're quiet, their brains are fixating on the fact that there is a Hydra in the room. And they will, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter if you're like, there are piles of gold all over the place. There's boots of flying. There's legendary magic items, and it won't matter. None of it will matter because their brains will be fixated on the fact that you said there's a Hydra in the room, and everything else is a waste. So that's the algorithm. It's very, very simple, but it is intentional. Very, very intentional. You describe the room, the environment, anything like that first, and then you describe the Hydra or any monsters or things that there are in the room. Boom, there it is. And here's another thing too. Very, very important tip about describing a scene in the game. You do not want to give tons of description for a room or a scene. A little bit. You give a little bit of information, a little bit of description, with more information available upon request. And this is very important. I notice this in modules a lot. They tend to go into very explicit details about the room. The curtains are aged and worn, and the mantelpiece has like illustrations of this and carvings of that, and there's a statue carved of this and it looks to be fairly old and has a smear of blood on it. And they go into these intricate details. They have this read aloud text that's like a mile long with all these details. Your players cannot process all of that. They will forget it. They will fixate on maybe one thing you say in there that interests them, and the rest is out the door. So you do not want mile long descriptive texts. You don't want to bore them with that. You don't want to overburden. It's an information dump is what it is. And you don't want to do that. You want to give them a little bit of information about that room, just a little bit. You walk into the room, you see there's a fireplace with a fire burning in it. There's a table over there, and sitting at the table are two men wearing big, huge swords strapped across their backs, and they're playing dice. Boom, you're done. That's it. Now, if so they're gonna have, something's gonna happen in there, whatever. Let's pretend there's a battle, they fight the guys. Okay, after the battle's over, they'll probably explore the room. Somebody's gonna go check the fireplace out, and then you're gonna tell them about the portrait of this guy smoking a pipe above the fireplace. Then you're gonna tell them about the gold coins that are scattered inside the fire itself and that are currently melting. That's so you give them a basic description, and then when they request more information, that's when you give them the details. And that's how you describe a scene. It's also how you run exploration. That right there's exploration in a dungeon. Now I'm poking around the room. I'm finding little things that interest me, and I'm exploring more about it. And then you as the dungeon master are doling out more information to them as they explore that room. And that's how you do it. So Great question. And there's your response. I am now publishing a monthly PDF full of resources such as villains, NPCs, traps, encounters with maps, entire adventures. Every single month, my patrons are going to get this PDF. We are about ready to roll out the second volume of it right here in February. It's over 30 pages of stuff for dungeon masters to use in their games, and you can see on screen a whole bunch of the little images from the February PDF that's going to be rolling out. So lots of cool stuff there. We have homebrew, like these are all villains that you can use in your game with stat blocks that go along with them. And then here is one of the adventures here, and it has high quality maps designed for virtual tabletops. There's one of them right there. So lots of cool stuff in there. The idea here is that it's going to help reduce your prep time for games and possibly, hopefully, improve the quality of your games. So if you're interested in checking that stuff out, there's a link down below somewhere